Welcome to the bumps in the dark.
Listen if you dare. Listen if you dare.
There used to be a traveling carnival on the edge of Black Hollow, a place called Giggles and Screams. The fairgrounds had long since rotted away, overtaken by trees, vines, and silence. All that remained standing was the crumbling funhouse, still painted in peeling red and white stripes, with its grinning clown mouth doors stretched wide as if frozen in a scream. Most kids in town avoided the place, but Thomas saw an opportunity to create a new video for his ghost hunting YouTube channel. "What's up, night crawlers?" he said into his camera, panning around the broken midway. "Today's the one you've been asking for. We're going inside Giggles and Screams, the most haunted place in Black Hollow." He turned the camera on his friends, Evelyn and Caleb, who stood a few feet back from the rusted gate. Evelyn looked uneasy. Caleb looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Still time to back out," Thomas said with a grin. "Let's just get this over with," Evelyn muttered. "We're just here to make sure you don't fall through the floor or hurt yourself." Thomas winked. "This video is definitely going to get views. Haunted carnival and creepy stories, it's perfect." Caleb groaned. "If something grabs you, I'm not going after you." Thomas laughed. "This is exactly the kind of stuff my subscribers eat up. Ghosts, urban legends, cursed masks. Nobody else gets footage like this. That's what makes my channel the best." They crossed the threshold, and the air shifted immediately. Inside, the funhouse was choked with dust, shadows, and the smell of something sweet and sour, like rotting candy apples. But beneath it all was something else, a faint, acrid trace of burnt wood and something worse. "Do you smell that?" Evelyn asked, covering her nose. Caleb nodded. "Like smoke. Old smoke." The hallway twisted in unnatural ways. Its mirrors warped, some shattered. Faded laughter crackled from a speaker overhead, though there was no power. Eventually, they reached a central room with a spotlight flickering above a small, makeshift stage. A throne-like chair sat at the center, and slumped in it was a life-sized jester dummy, dressed in charred, tattered velvet, blackened at the sleeves. Its head hung low, and on its face was a porcelain mask painted with a wide, blood-red grin. A rusted plaque below read, "Chuckles, the final act. He who mocks the mask laughs in its place." "That's him," Thomas whispered, stepping closer. Evelyn frowned. "Wait, Chuckles, isn't that the guy?" Caleb nodded grimly. "They say he was the carnival's star jester until one night the crowd turned on him, stopped laughing, and began mocking him, so he snapped." "Worse," Thomas said, as he adjusted his camera to film the mask. "He locked the exit doors, chained them shut, then doused the place and himself in gasoline, lit a match, and stood there laughing while the whole funhouse went up in flames." Caleb's voice was barely a whisper. "They never found his body. Just the mask. Not a scratch on it." Thomas grinned. "Then I guess it's time to meet Chuckles." Before either friend could stop him, he lifted the mask from the dummy's face. It was cold, heavy, like it didn't want to be touched. "Smile for the camera," Thomas said, and slid it into his backpack. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. The wind clawed at her window. Somewhere, far off, she thought she heard a faint, echoing laughter. Then her phone buzzed. A group message from Thomas at 1:03 a.m. "Something's wrong. It's not where I left it." Another message buzzed. "The mask moved. I didn't touch it." Evelyn sat up. What? A third message followed. A photo. His bedroom. The mask was now on his desk, staring directly at the camera. But earlier that night, he had locked it in his closet. They'd watched him do it on video. Another message from Thomas. Did either of you come over? Before Evelyn could reply, Thomas's messages stopped. His phone went dark. Inside his house, the power cut without a sound. No flicker, no warning, just nothing. And then the laughter began. It crawled through the vents, echoed behind the walls, slid beneath the floorboards. Thomas lunged for his bedroom door. It wouldn't budge. His room began to fill with smoke, and his mirror fogged over. And then letters slowly began to form. You mocked the mask, now wear the laugh. In the mirror, he saw it, a tall figure in burned velvet, face pale and leathery, stretched into a grotesque grin that reached ear to ear. Its eyes were empty sockets that seemed to burn without flame. Thomas screamed, and he grabbed the mask from his desk. Take it back! Take it back! But the mask laughed. The next day, Thomas didn't show up at school. His phone was off. His parents were out of town. Evelyn and Caleb biked to his house. The windows were dark. The house was silent. His room looked undisturbed, except for one thing. The mask, resting on his pillow, smiling. They stared at it in silence. There was no sign of Thomas. Just a faint smear of red across the inside of the mask, as if someone had grinned too wide and bled through their teeth. Caleb backed away. We need to put it back. They wrapped the mask in cloth, stuffed it in a backpack, and pedaled back to Giggles and Screams. Inside the funhouse, the smell of smoke was stronger now. The throne sat empty. Evelyn placed the mask gently on the seat. We're sorry, she whispered. He didn't mean to mock you. He didn't know. Please, let him go. The lights flickered. A faint laugh echoed from the halls. When they turned to leave, the plaque had changed. It read, Thomas, the opening act. He mocked, he laughed, he stays. In the mirror near the exit, they saw a jester wearing Thomas's shoes.
Midnight fog, the shadows crawl, footsteps echo down the hall. Doors creak open, whispers sigh, something unseen is passing by. Lanterns flicker, the cold wind hums a warning song. Do you hear the drums? They whisper your name when the night turns black. No turning around, there's no going back. In black hollow streets where nightmares start, you'll find the bumps in the dark.